Hi, this is Saintus, welcome back to Force of Vampires, and Space Age Venus, the newest stage here in the game, has finally been released. So in comparison with the previous age, this one shows some improvements in comparison with it, but in a general view it is quite similar to the previous age. As for the requirements, none of them are particularly demanding, and thus before you move on to Space Age Venus you should try and collect as many as you can, which is something that I forgot to do regarding the forge points. Next we also have the provinces, and they're pretty much exactly the same as the previous stage, which is the different exploration sites with production times from 1 hour to a full day, plus the 2 goods deposits, the 1 expansion, and many chests. And in between those chests you'll have your 250 diamonds, just like last stage, only this time you have 3 of them instead of 2, and if you're looking to spend diamonds in order to scout them all, there are in total 36 provinces, which will set you back 1800 diamonds. By the way, as for the production times themselves, in theory you should be able to get 700 a day. Now obviously no one's ever going to be around for some of the productions at midnight, so it's around 600 carbon with all of the exploration sites unlocked that you'll be able to collect daily. As for the buildings, that is residential, production, plus culture buildings and decorations, those are all pretty standard. There's always a premium and a non-premium one, but you already know that at this stage you don't need any of these buildings. Also, just like Space Age Asteroid Belt, you have synthesizers, which can make any of the goods from the previous stage, and they don't require you to spend Mars ore or asteroid ice in order to make them. As for the units, which is something that I've covered before, but there has been some changes, those changes are related with the heavy unit and range unit. But anyway, the fast unit is a direct upgrade to the one from Space Age Mars, which is one that most have been using whenever there's a match with, for example, too much artillery or where you need to attack first, because those are the perks of that unit. As for the light unit itself, which I thought it was going to be very weak, has in fact confirmed my thoughts about it. But on the other hand, I thought that the heavy unit was going to be a bit relevant, but in truth it really isn't. This was because I overlooked how its range was going to play out against the other units from this age, because all of the other units have a normal range, meaning that they can usually attack you from about the midfield. This heavy unit on the other hand doesn't, and it needs to get right up close to you in order to deal damage. And not only that, its reactive armor, which meant that it could only take 4 points of damage, and in theory it should take 3 hits in order to take it down, that ability is negated by the keen eye or whatever it's called, which is the 30% chance of dealing critical hit. This critical hit equals to twice as much damage, but most importantly it can ignore reactive armor, so you can deal 8 points of damage to this unit, and because it's the highest percentage of the space ages, then you're more likely than ever to bypass this reactive armor. As for the ranged unit, in that case it is more valuable than I initially said, and it is also a straight up upgrade from the ranged unit from the previous age. And finally we have the Power Dragon, or whatever it's called in English, which is the artillery unit from Space Age Venus, and this one, as confirmed, it is all around the most powerful unit in the era. However, there is the fact that it's not the first one to attack like it should be for an artillery. But in general, this is obviously the most powerful one. Just the fact that it can ignore every single ability, including the flying ability from the fast units, and also the reactive armor, and it also has the keen eye ability. And being that it's an artillery, it pretty much always gets a full salvo of rounds before the enemy can fight back. And as for whether something should be done to this unit, I'm not really the kind of person that's going to have an opinion on this right now. As for the recurring quests, these ones are pretty much exactly the same, like Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V from the previous stage. There are of course a few tweaks here and there regarding the values for coins and supplies, and it did replace one quest with another one, which was the 8-hour productions, which was removed, and instead of quests with 12 battles in a row without losing plus scattering 5 goods was added. Also, as we know, there is definitely cheating regarding the recurring quests. Now, in order to fight this, in the game just introduced a delay between every time that you aborted those quest lines. The only real impact that it had was on the good players, the ones that did not cheat it, the ones that just manually aborted every quest line, because it very clearly became very annoying and frustrating to have to do that every single day. As for the cheaters themselves, they are not the ones doing it. Basically, their computer, it's their program, And for a machine, it doesn't matter how much time it takes, so the player will just keep doing it. There's nothing that actually prevents the player from cheating, and so the player will keep doing it. There were also rumors, I don't know for sure, of a cap as 2000 quests that could be aborted every day. Again, that doesn't really change things. They can just keep cheating, and as soon as it reaches 2000, fine, it's over, but the next day they'll just do it again. And this was said by FO Elite, so check out his video about that. And finally we have the great building, which is called the Flying Island. By the way, I don't know why the previous age only had one great building, but anyway, let's move on to this one. First, it is a 4x6, and of course, because it belongs to the highest age in the game, it's going to require the most amount of goods, which is a hefty 900 per each good, and also the most forge points per level. As for its property, it basically makes incidents and drops those incidents in your settlements, just like in your city. However, unlike for those incidents in your city, in this case you need to sacrifice space and all the other resources in order to gain that. So the rewards need to be a lot better, of course. And from the look of it, these rewards are definitely not enough. But anyway, that this does not make a great amount of shards, as they are called. If you compare it to the other grid building that does this, which is the Temple of Relics, even though it has a lower chance for every encounter that you fight, because there are 64 every week, it's an average of more than 9 every day. However, for the Flying Island it's only 6, which means that on average, at level 10, it should take you about 9.3 days in order for you to gain one of these rare shards here. And this rare portion here just isn't good enough. I mean, a 1-up kit and a renovation are good once in a while, especially when people move up an age just like now. But apart from that, you don't really need them, and they can be obtained very easily. And none of these 300 goods and 150 forge points are also really good, because there are other ways of getting those resources very easily as well. As for the Temple of Relics, on the other hand, it has very unique and valuable buildings. One of those is the Fountain of Youth, and through the guild expedition you can get the shrink kit for this fountain, which is useful for diamond farms. We also have the Sacred Skywatch and Terrace Farm. These buildings can be sold in the antique sealer every single time, but even if the Temple of Relics, for example, was worse than the Flying Island, it would have still been okay because it's a no age grid building. It just asks you for a very small amount of goods and far less forge points, which means that if you don't like it, then when you remove it, you won't have lost that many resources. However, that's not really the case for the Flying Island. But before I end this video, I just want to mention how good looking this is, at least this space colony. The previous one was in fact a bunch of asteroids in the darkness of space. This one, on the other hand, has the sun shining at all times over these beautiful clouds. I know they are yellow and they are sulfuric acid, but just the way that these buildings disappear as if you were in the ocean is in fact quite beautiful. And just like I said in the beginning, this is very similar in many things to the previous age, but it does have some improvements over it. But anyway, that was basically Venus in 40 Vampires. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you next time.